Seattle. I need a shot of tequila for this next song. Just figure it out, Seattle. You always know how to call my name. Smoking hot, just need a little shot. You always seem
Hello, today we're looking at the Friedman IRD, which is like the IRX, only that the letter at the end is different. Now, while the IRX is the preamp kind of a section of the typical Friedman BE amp, meaning super modded, Plexi-ish, high gain, dense, beast, the IRD is based on the Dirty Shirley, which is now a 2-channel amp called the Twin Sister. I don't know if the single channel is still around. Now, I have one, which is right about, there. And I have the single channel, I have the Dirty Shirley, and it is an absolutely brilliant amp. The cleans on it are redonkulous. I know you're not buying it for the cleans, but it's got this 3 position switch, which really just gives that one channel a different input, gainy topology, structure, drivies, something techie that I don't understand. And it is just so much fun. The cleans are ridiculous. With a Strat, that thing shines. But of course, you can get the gain. And it is a very chunky, and I want to say honest amp. It doesn't go as dense. I mean, it gets gain, trust me, but it doesn't go as dense as the BE will. So it's a different flavor of Friedman, but it's still Dave, it's still Friedman. How different is it from the RX? I honestly can't tell you. It's fun, it's martially, it's gainy, it's, I think the cleans here are more to my liking. I would say more usable, but that's just because they're more to my liking. The IRX is clearly meant to be hello, and this is more like hello and then hello. I think the range on the IRD is bigger. And do you need both? Honestly, I would say no. It's the same flavor, and you probably will prefer one over the other. Now let's look at it. It is very, very, very similar in functionality to the IRX. So let's go through it quickly. We got 2 channels, and as far as I can tell, they're not really voiced differently. So you could set up channel 1 as, which is this thing, as anything you want. A rhythm sound, a clean sound, a lead sound. And you can set up channel 2 as anything you want, and then you can switch back and forth by going channel 1, channel 2. Very simple. There's a volume for the boosted version of the channel and a volume for not boosted. So if you want to boost it and kick it into solo, then you can also get solo levels for a live performance. In which case, this turns on and you have a foot switch for that. How much it boosts is on the side here. So right there are 2 levels for the different channels on how much you want to boost them. One I have boosted a bit less, and this is about maybe at 2 o'clock. Channel 1, channel 2, very simple. The channel foot switches also work as an IR bypass, because of course there's IRs in it, because it's in the fucking name. So you don't want to use it and use external IRs. I've shown you this thing with the end game from KMA, which is pretty brilliant. It also adds some ambience, which this is lacking. So in conjunction with the KMA endgame, this thing is an absolute beast. So you could turn the IRs off, and you can turn the loop on and off by holding this in. You have no visual whether the loop is on or off. I wish there was a light on it for that. They're gonna say, well, you're gonna hear it. Yeah, but I don't want to go on stage, step up to it, and before I play, I kind of need to know, is my Leslie simulator and delay on or not? So I wish there was a visual indication whether the loop is on or not, because right now I have no idea what I did. And then if you hold this in, you're storing to the, I think, current program change, because it also has MIDI. Now, 3 different IRs can be selected here. 3 different IRs can be selected here. They can be changed in the desktop app. There's no Bluetooth or anything, and I will show you that in a sec. Volume for the non-boosted, treble, middle, bass, which is weird to me because it should be bass, middle, treble, but it's just it doesn't really matter. But for me, it should follow kind of a frequency response thing where you look at it and down here is bass and here's mids and here's treble, you know, like a frequency spectrum, and it's the opposite. You just have to get used to that. This is a bright switch, 2 position, individual for each channel. And this is a 3 position gainy switch. So in the middle, it's the least. It's always they buy these switches that work that way. In the middle, it's kind of off, more gain, loads more gain. I say this all the time about boutique amps distribution stuff. I wish it would tell me that. The user interfaces here, you have to learn and then memorize. And I don't like that. I like very simple. I look at it and I know before I switch the switch. Let's go into this for a second. I'm sorry. I've said this in many videos, but I will say it again. My mentor in sound design, Tom Ray, who wrote the manual for the Mini Moog, so that's a guy who knows the user interfaces, said a professional in any field is someone who can predict the near future. Meaning, as a professional engineer, before I move the fader up, I know what will happen. Likely, the volume of that channel, the vocals, will get louder. So before I move it up, I know what happens. I look at a compressor. Before I move the attack knob, I'm a professional if I know what will happen when I do that. Furthermore, if I know, I want that sound, I will grab it and move it here. If I'm a car mechanic, I'll turn the thing to the right and the wheel will stay on the car. I don't want to have someone testing things. So here, without knowing anything, I will have to test. But if it's said, and I've said this many times, a little plus and a little plus plus. More and even more. Then anyone who hasn't read the manual, anyone that doesn't listen, because I don't want to listen. I don't want to play and listen. I want to look at it and know before I do something. I want to be a professional. Before I do something, I want to know going up is plus plus, not play. Ah, here we are. I don't consider myself a professional, or honestly, I don't consider this a professional switch if I cannot predict what it does before I switch it. Okay? I've had this discussion with them they're just not doing it. That's fine, but then they have to live with me bitching about it. So, of course, when you own this, you know, down is more, up is even more. That was my rant about the Switch. And then, you know, is this down, on? No, up is on. You have to know these things. I wish the interface showed you. Here, I mean, 3-position cap switch. You do have to kind of listen because you cannot write whatever caps there are. In the back, we have an input. We have a send and return, and I tell you what's in there. We have a balanced out, not XLR, but it is balanced. And these jacks, if you can see this, they're not all the way in the pedal. They are actually sticking out a bit. And I thought this is a mistake, but this is actually how it's supposed to be. Maybe something inside with the spacing, which is totally fine. Headphone out, mini jack. There's a ground lift. MIDI, big MIDI, USB-B. And when I plug this in, I will get noise, because sometimes when you have a pedal like this connected to your computer and you're also connecting it with USB, there's some kind of loop. It's sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't, and sometimes it's avoidable and sometimes it isn't. Now, setting up the sound with that noise is going to be annoying. But again, nothing I can do about it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't with a USB. It's nothing about the pedal. It's my setup, and it could be your setup. It might not be your setup. So, in the loop, I have a pentatone gate. So I'm playing into the gate with the guitar, then into the input. So the gate knows when I'm playing, when I'm not playing. Right now it's green, meaning it's gating. And then it's actually in the effects loop, meaning it will gate the noise that the pedal might or might not generate. Also behind it, I have a pentatone, a preamp, just to show you what that sounds like. So if you want to really shape more, you can. The H90 is behind it, so I'm going out of the balanced output into the H90, and then stereo out of the H90 into my X4 from Universal Audio. And here we go. We have some cleans. This, by the way, is the Trella, 71 Trella from Sully Guitars. I knew she was pretty, but then she arrived, and it is likely one of the best guitars I ever owned. Hipshot locking tuners. It's not a cheap guitar, but with its 25.5-inch scale, it's just one of the most phenomenal playing and sounding guitars I've ever owned. So, with more gain comes more volume, so you have to kind of toggle that. Not toggle, you know, adjust. Let's do this with some effects. Let's test the different IRs. Okay, we'll do a bit more gain here. Effect off. Oh, I never mentioned that. This is tubes. It's actual tubes. It's tubes actually running at the actual voltage that they are running in, I don't know, high power, high voltage, some 12 volt conversion, which is why it's recommended to use the included power supply, which is what I'm using. But it's actual tubes. It's actually running like the Dirty Shirley preamp. Not would, but is. It is a Dirty Shirley preamp, period. That's just fun. I'm going to click it on gain 2. So you see, I took the gain down, clicked it, and I'm still at the same gain. That's just fun. I'm going to kick it in more. I don't know, songs. It sounds a killer, right? Too much low end there for me. That'll trash your mix. I like the first one. We never clicked on the bright. Here we will. Subtle. Oh, less subtle. With more gain, which is a typical Friedman thing, the bright will be less relevant. We'll kick in the boost. I don't have it turned up all the way, so it will get denser on channel 2. So get that all the way up. There we go. And on channel 2, I've got the boost cranked up even more. You're hearing, I think the channels are the same, they're just meant to be set up differently. So you can get any kind of rocky sound out of that you want. I mean, it's ultimately flexible. I mean, screaming leads, great rock rhythms, and cool cleans. I like it as a go-to tool for put that on the table. There's your recording. Stick with the one cap. That's easier when you're mixing. And it's a great, no frills, in just enough frills, creative box. You know? Let's see what the EQ will do. That rhymes. It's all there. So in the effects loop, I have a gate, and you're gonna say, well, you're cheating because you had the gate on the whole time. That's how much noise there is. The typical, I mean, it's a tube preamp, right? It's not very noisy. Of course, now it's less noisy. And that pentatone thing works. But let's kick in the EQ just to show you how you can, sculpt it in stupid ways. So yeah, within EQ you can literally do anything, but I don't think you need to. It was just to show you the effects loop. And so since not everyone's going to use this direct with the IRs, some of you might want to use it as a preamp into a power amp into a cab, like, real men used to do it back in the day. We're gonna test this. I rarely do this, but I have a setup here that I did for the Friedman Cyclops, which is a switcher between preamp and amp, using the power station. Technically, I could even show you how this sounds compared to a 20-watt Marshall Mini Plexi. We should maybe do that. But let's check out the RD into the power station with 50 watt 6R6 into a B30 loaded cab with a TC2290P. There's also a gate in the loop of the power station. So this is what it sounds like. Here we go. Clean channel. Or channel 1, it's not clean. Quick little test. This 20 watt Plexi is almost cranked in the, power amp there. We've got it almost all the way up. Let's go all the way up here on both of them. So this is what the mini Plexi sounds like. Now, technically, a Dirty Shirley is not a Plexi thing, but I mean, maybe it is. So let's see if we can get that sound somehow. Let's first see if we can dial in the gain to be kind of where it needs to be. It's there. A little bit less top end here. Dirty Shirley has more definition, which I could get by getting a bit more treble into the Plexi. Maybe it's a level thing now? I don't know where I am anymore. It does feel like this is a little, I mean, we're talking about 0.5% less defined than the IRD at that setting. But if you want the sound of a cranked Plexi with these settings that I have, which is bass at noon, middle at 1-ish, and treble at 3, and presence at 3, and then both of them, and it's jump it and shit like this, then what you need to do is, channel 2, brightness off, gain up, 3 o'clock, noon, 2 o'clock, and volume as you please. But honestly, this is the sound of my 20 watt SVH Marshall Plexi-ish thing. So even though that amp originally isn't supposed to be that, I'm gonna say you can absolutely freaking get that sound. Yes, there's a difference. This is not a difference that musically makes any difference or any relevant difference in a mix on stage or you playing. You're gonna have fun with both. This cheaper and more movable. Talking about movable, let's move back to me. And to finish the whole thing, we're gonna straighten out the pedal a bit. And I'm gonna show you the software. So right now it's showing the IRX. The Friedman software is the Friedman software. It's the same thing. So now you can hear all the noise, which again is, it's not the pedal. It's just being hooked up to the computer and being hooked up to the computer with USB. There is a loop happening. It doesn't always happen, but it happens. You can save with MIDI program changes, which you set up here. So program change 0, program change 1, for example. You can change anything you're switching, not whatever you're turning. Okay, so you can switch whether the boost is on, what channel is on, which of the 3 tabs are selected, or whether bright, no. Oh, these you can also not switch. So you can determine not anything about the gain. That's pre-set up, but which cap, whether the boost is on or off, what channel, whether loop is bypassed or not, and whether IR is bypassed or not. So relatively simple. Up here, you determine the MIDI channel and you have loads of program changes. But given that you don't have full MIDI control over all the knobs and especially the gain structure, you're really talking about 2 sounds that then are going through different MIDI styles. I mean, you're gonna need 3 to maybe 6 different program changes if you want to control it with MIDI. I don't think you're gonna use more sounds than that. Also, you have a volume control on your guitar, which is really all you need with something like this. So up here, you can also change depth and presence for the simulated power amp section. Okay, so you can make it even more DP or presence-y, independent for each channel. And then you have the 3 caps here. Dirty Shirley 112, that's apparently what I liked. 1960 greenback, Dirty Shirley 112, well, it's the same thing. That's why I liked it. And down here, that's why I liked it. I end up with a 412, with a 112, because the 412s to me, they're too big, too low endy. You can of course load your own IRs if you so choose, or you go and let's say we go to this one here. You can pick something else from the included ones. And there's, as you can see, a whole bunch. here green and V30 select. And that's now in position 3. Let's see. I don't like all the low end. So you can see that's how you pick your cabs very, very easily. And pick 3 for the channel 1, 3 for channel 2. And that gives you 6 IRs you're carrying around with you, given that the channels are very, very similar or actually the same. Gives you a wealth of options. And that's really all you do with the app. Once you do that, you don't really have to go back into it because then the pedal is the way that you want it with your favorite IRs from your favorite companies. And then you do disconnect it. And you're good to go. And that is it for the Friedman IRD. In the US, that's the V30 now. In the US, it's $4.99. In Germany, I'm gonna go, it's probably $5.99-ish, including tax and all that. Do you need this in the IRX? If you're a super Friedman fan, yes. I think they both serve a similar function with a nuanced, different voicing. I think this is probably more flexible than the IRX, but there's probably videos comparing them. I could have compared it to the real amp, but what's the point? If you want the real amp, buy the real amp. Oh, but I always wanted a Dirty Shirley, but I only can afford the pedal. I get that, but then the amp it's not relevant because you can't afford the amp anyway, so just buy the pedal because it sounds freaking brilliant. The amp will sound different because I'm going to run it through different cabs and mics. I'm going to run it through an aux. I'm going to do different things with it. They're all different tools. I'm 100% convinced that the preamp section is extremely similar, and then all the other stuff will change it. And you're going to change it with your playing anyway, and your guitar, and all that. So, no, I'm not going to do that comparison. It's a great pedal. I could record a whole album with that and be happy. With the included IRs, absolutely. And I'm not saying that because I'm getting paid for this video. I'm not. You heard it. Did I change anything? Did I EQ it to sound better? No, I EQ'd it. You saw me EQ it. You know, all of that bullshit. It's just, we literally cannot lie in these videos unless there's some hidden feature that I really hate and I'm not talking about it. But sound-wise, the sounds I got were the sounds I got. I mean, they sounded amazing with a nice stereo, right? But I told you it's an Eventide H90. So if you want that sound, it's not the pedal doing that. That's the pedal and the H90. You get the idea. You saw the gate in the loop. I mean, there's no way to make these videos dishonest, even if I wanted to. Some others I could. But on something like this, what you hear is what you get. I'll put links below. Thanks, Leslie, for switching. Please use the links. Please subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. Support me wherever you can, because that's how these videos exist, through your support. Thank you. Animals at the end.